everyone, and welcome to your monthly one-shot here, a little shorter episode, which will be going through a little bit of a format change next month. We'll talk about that a little later on. Once again, here joining me, we got Sinide and Ajax in the booth.
Yo.
Hello.
As we're going to be talking about a little bit of a topic here that's actually the talk of the town, as now DC and Marvel are re-releasing their amalgam books and the crossover books. And the book we're going to be reviewing for the comic book of the month is a crossover book. So I thought, why not really quickly think of some ideas? What are some dream comic book crossovers or characters that you would like to see mix it up together? For example, I would love to see a crossover. This is kind of controversial, but if you read the books, you'll understand. Or maybe even the shows. But I would love to see a crossover between The Boys and Heroes Legacy, because I feel like they're very similar in concept of these heroes that are just douchebags, for lack of a better term. And I think The Boys world is like perfect for Heroes Legacy, to see them kind of mixed together for a book of like Butcher trying to kill them. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I think that'd be a really good fit for that kind of like crossover story. Another one I would really want to see, as they were mixed together in amalgam, I would like to see a cool little crossover book of Spider-Man and Superboy, like teaming up and helping each other out instead of like fighting each other or becoming one person. I think that could be some really cool moments in there, especially with like modern day like Spider-Man and Superboy, because Superboy is like trying to find himself in the books. So I think it'd be really cool to see him like with Spider-Man, like kind of work together with someone that has the knowledge of Spider-Man for all the years he's been a hero for. I think it could be a lot of fun. Did you have any, Ajax, though? Did you think of any potential crossovers or things you'd like to see come together?
There's a few that came to mind. I'd really like to see the Ninja Turtles and Daredevil, because then you can have the Foot Clan versus the Hand.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
You know what I mean?
Hands and feet.
The limbs fighting each other.
It'll be the Foot Clan versus the Hand against a blind dude and some turtles. I like to think Daredevil just thinks they're still like regular people instead of giant turtles.
For a villain one, I'd really like to see Arcade, the X-Men villain, and the Joker. I'd like to see that.
That could be really good. It could be a lot of fun. I'm trying to think of like some like really good ones.
Ghost Rider and Spawn would be fun.
That would be a lot of fun. I think like a lot of things with Spawn would be a good time.
Because Batman and Spawn was fun. That was a fun crossover.
And they did it, 3 times?
They did, yeah. It was a formula that worked.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So now, from what you've seen from superhero stuff, can you think of anything?
Yeah. Mine's not going to be as much of a deep cut, but I would think it'd be pretty funny to see Bruce Wayne and Tony Stark in the same universe.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because,
hell yeah.
2 rich guys, but one of them, trying to conceal his identity of his alter ego and, kind of trying to hide the things he does, even though they are, good things that help out the world. And then you just got the guy who doesn't give a fuck. I am Iron Man. Yeah, I am Iron Man. Yeah, I did that cool shit. I'm rich as fuck, and I'm a superhero. What are you doing, dude? Hiding that you're a superhero? Fucking lame.
You would love the Civil War series. That was the whole premise of Civil War. He was like, we should give our identities. It's okay. And Captain America's like, no, bro, don't. And then he's like, watch, this is a good idea. Hey, Spider-Man, come here, show your identity. And then people die because of that. If I'm correct, doesn't Aunt May get killed?
I think so.
During that? And he's like, this was a bad idea.
Yeah. Just Tony Stark being the rich asshole that I truly envisioned him to be.
Oh, actually, Gabe, you know what's a crossover I'd really love to see?
What?
Deathstroke and Punisher.
Okay, that would be a lot of fun. That would be a lot. I'd be scared if those 2 dudes rolled up on me. If I was selling drugs, I'd stop right there. I'd be like, please don't. Please stop.
You've convinced me.
Yeah, I'll give you a shout out, Gabe, because you told me, you said you wouldn't believe it, but she sells very well in Connecticut. How about Red Sonja and Wonder Woman?
Oh, dude, Red Sonja sells so much. I went to pick up my Red Sonja book this past week and it was sold out again, and I have it on my pre-order list. They had to reorder it for me. Like, what the hell? Dude, that would be really cool. I think in the little theme today, I'd like to see Gen 13 mix it up with something a little bit more modern, which is something that they could do. So I guess it's not really a dream crossover, more of when it's going to happen. Yeah. And Birds of Prey. 'Cause I feel like another team of all women, you mix Gen 13 in there, I feel like it could be a lot of fun. Birds of Prey actually currently has an Image character in their team now. They have, what's her name from Wildcats?
Is it Zealot? Is that her name?
Think so. The one with the red slashes on her face?
I think that's...
Yeah, Zealot. There we go.
Right? Zealot. Okay,
yes. So yeah, Zealot is a part of that team now. She's like the only thing from like Image and Wildstorm that like lived. You know what I mean?
That's so strange.
She's like the only thing that her and the Authority are like the only things that like survived. And I mean Wildcats is still a thing in DC, but
it's like on and off.
Yeah, like the series like just ended, and I like don't know if they're gonna bring it back. But there's a lot of things that I think they should really bring to the forefront, but who knows if they actually will. Like Gen 13, give me that. By the way, you look up Wildcats and it shows you actual tigers. It's not what I meant. I meant the comic book Wildcats.
Yeah.
Jeez,
yeah, it's just showing me pictures of Chris Harris. What the fuck?
That's a good one.
You know a crossover I'd love to see? Sheedy and Kay and Jay and Silent Bob.
Yes.
Coming soon.
I totally don't already have our intro, how we meet them, planned in my head. That'd be weird. Or how Shady and Kay meet them.
It's not like it's planned or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, not at all.
I think a big one too, I think a lot of people would love to see is like Hyperion and Superman.
Oh yeah.
Which would be like another one of those like Superman versus evil Superman, but I feel like Hyperion's a little bit more complex than that. He's not just like I'm a bad guy and I have a lot of powers. But I think that could be a lot of fun. I mean, throw in Sentry, bring him back to life, throw him in there, give a little three-way match. You know what I mean?
You gotta do Power Superman Princess characters and Wonder Woman. You have to do that.
That would be cool. Dude, just give me Squadron Supreme versus Justice League. There you go. You get everything.
Yeah.
You got everything at that point. You got Nighthawk and Batman. That could be a lot of fun. Oh, give me Nightwatch and Spawn. Give me that crossover.
Oh, yeah.
So Nightwatch is Marvel basically said, oh, Spawn's selling a lot of money, or making a lot of money, and selling a lot of books. Let's just make our own Spawn. And they just outright just stole everything. It's just Spawn.
Nice.
Like it looks almost identical. Like it's almost the same guy. But I want all the books of it. I think it could be a lot of fun to collect. Here, let me show you this. I'm gonna send it in the chat here so you can see for yourself. So of course this is good old Spawn from issue number 1 here, right? Spawn number 1, very iconic look. The big cape, the white around the eyes, the pitch black suit with the couple color, the red colors on it. The weird like M on his chest. Yep. Which I guess is like a, I never thought of it like this, but I was like, oh, McFarlane, it's a big M on Spawn's chest. To which Marvel said, you know what, we can do that. So here's Nightwatch. He's basically the same exact dude.
White around the eyes, big cape.
Yup.
Kind of the same pose.
Kind of the same pose. They did update his suit at one point, and his suit was a blatant ripoff of the of Batman from Nightfall, the Azrael Batman, with the giant gloves and big metal shoulder plates that are spiky, and the big crazy cape. They just blatantly took that at one point too. It's like, okay, they were just it was just everything. They were just like, yeah, let's take that.
Is it the same story? Because I kind of know the story for Spawn.
So it's funny. I think the person that owns the rights to Nightwatch, I haven't read his story yet, but I think the person that currently owns the rights right now is Spike Lee. Because he was trying to get a movie made for Nightwatch like 2 years ago. So I think he owns the movie rights to the character, if I'm correct.
Makes sense, because Nightwatch is a black character.
Sorry. I said 2 years ago, man. This is 2018. A Nightwatch film was claimed to be in development for Sony's Spider-Man universe. Oh, no. In March 2018, Variety reported that Spike Lee was in talks to direct the film. Lee denied being attached to the film in late 2018, so never mind. He was rumored to be a part of it, and then he wasn't. So... But there was other articles like saying, is this from 20? Oh, it was an article. Never mind. The article's like saying that he's eyeing it down. I'm like, but he said that wasn't true. But these articles are from 2018. So these are all the rumors I'm reading. But yeah, man, damn. There's these pictures of him, and I'm like, even so, I drew him the other day, and as I was drawing him, and I'm like, I felt like I was stealing stuff. I was like, Jesus, this looks like I'm just drawing Spawn. Like, I felt bad, but like, look at this image here of it's Spike Lee and him, but it's Spawn on the right. It's it's the same dude, and it's another black character also, just like Spawn.
Yep.
So they just, and even under the mask, like he looks like Spawn before he got all burned. It's the same. It's the same dude. But now I really want to read the books for Night Watch though. I really want to get into it. I believe it's only like 12 issues or something. It's very short. It's not too long.
Yeah. Should we dedicate an episode to Night Watch? We could do that.
We could definitely dedicate an episode to Night Watch.
We could
we could definitely do that. But I think those are some solid crossovers, man. We didn't have much because I think a lot of like the big crossovers the companies have done. Like we've seen Batman and Daredevil, we've seen Superman and Spider-Man, we've seen Spider-Man and Batman, we've seen all those. X-Men Teen Titans, we've seen that.
I was gonna say that's probably the best one.
Yeah, and I think I would like to see like a modern take on that. Like the current day Titans are basically just like the new age Justice League. Like they're taken very seriously, and I think them with the X-Men would be really cool. So I think it could be a lot of fun seeing people like, I don't know, Nightcrawler and Beast Boy get along and stuff. I feel like that'd be cool. One dude's blue, one dude's green. They could become friends, you know? That's how that works, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, so I think those are some really quick crossovers. We're going to be getting a little bit more into crossover stuff in a couple months because we're going to be talking about, spoiler alert, we'll be talking about Amalgam and some like Amalgam books we would like to see being made. So I think that's when like we'll really like deep dive into like some characters we'd like to see, like mushed together into one person. I think that's when we'll really tackle that. But yeah, I think this is a good time more than any since it's on the mind here. It's the big 30th anniversary, man. 30 years of Gen 13. So I thought, why not cover one of the most biggest crossovers they've done with Gen 13 and Spider-Man? So, Ajax, if I'm correct, you read this as well.
Gabe, I was telling Sinai, I was like, I literally read this 30 minutes before you called me on Discord.
I read this about 3 hours ago. It was like, or not 3, it was a little longer than that, but it was during my lunch break. I read this to read it for today. So,
and it was the first comic that I read on my tablet.
Oh, really?
Just to test it out. And I was like, oh man, I really like this. It's like my tablet, the screen is 10.5 inches. So it almost feels like you're reading like an absolute edition because it's so big.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, Sinai, we're going to take you on a quick little journey here. So this book starts off with good old Spider-Man. He's getting punched in the face.
Spider-Man's getting his ass kicked.
He's getting his ass whipped, but every time he gets punched in the face, we see a different guy playing an instrument. So we see a dude playing the drums, dude playing the guitar, dude slapping the bass. You know what I mean? Getting a little bit of everything there.
Slapping the bass.
I love how he's getting punched and he's like, this is symbolic. And then just like, that's it, symbols. You hear someone play the drums.
And he's like, is this a dream? Am I awake? And then he gets kicked in the nuts and he's like, yep, I'm awake. I am not
asleep. He goes,
So then you find out where are those things coming from, and they are at a concert. It is a concert going on, but who is that talking to each other? It's Grunge and Freefall. And look it, we got Fairchild, we got Rainmaker. They're all here at this rock concert.
Hell yeah.
And Freefall's like, am I dreaming? This is great. We're seeing this great band called Black Lung Disease.
Am I dreaming, dude?
And she's like, this is awesome. She's like, God, Grunge. She's like, Grunge, I don't know how to repay you. And this is his response. He said, oh, there's lots of ways. I've got a whole book on it with tons of instructions. And she's like, yeah, I bet you do. And he's doing this weird, horny face. He's like biting his lip. So even in this, he's a horn dog. And it's funny because, like, the thing that really upsets me about this book is that it shows them in their costumes. They're never in their costumes. at once
at
in this
any
book.
point in the book, yeah, they're not in their costumes. It's so strange.
They're never in their costumes. So they're partying it up. Some dude's smoking a cigarette in the club, and Sarah Rainmaker, she's pissed. She's coughing. She's like, listen, I don't care if you smoke, but just don't smoke in my direction. And the dude's like, he says, quote, bite me, babe. So she's like, all right, fuck you. So she literally starts a storm during the concert and makes it rain and thunder on the guy, and no one fucking bats an eye. Like, just the concert keeps going. So then they're like, yeah, I think a Rainmaker wants to leave, and Freefall's like, all right, oh well, like, I'm not leaving.
Yeah, but I thought that was great. Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, I thought Grunge went, well, that's like her prob.
Yeah. He just says,
Freefall
he says, Rox, I don't think Sarah's having a good time. And as this is happening, like, they're having a good time. They go up to the rafters, and Spider-Man's like, oh, why me? I'm just getting my ass kicked. This is the worst day ever. And, like, this chick rolls up, and she throws this, like, grenade at Spider-Man, and his spider sense isn't working, so he doesn't, like, know when they're coming. And the chick is this one here, which on the cover, on the back, she has this, like, black hair. Nah, she's a redhead in the book.
Yeah.
So I was like, is this someone else? Like, who am I looking at? And then you realize it's just that person. They messed up on the back of the book. Spider-Man webs her, and then she just, like, cuts it open with her two little knives. And he's like, oh, fuck. This bitch is strong.
She's serious.
Spider-Man just falls into the crowd, and Freefall catches him as he's falling, and he starts floating to the ground, just like she did in the cartoon. And she's like, oh, no way. It can't be you.
It can't, like, be you.
It can't, like, be you. And he goes, oh, good. If I'm not me, that means someone else has an even more screwed up life than I do. I'm like, damn, Spidey, why do you gotta be so depressing? Spider-Man was a little bit of a downer in this book, I gotta say, at some points. But this chick jumps down. We still don't know her name. So she jumps down with these knives. And everyone's like, yeah, this is part of the show. And the spotlight goes on her. And dog, she just teleports away. She just, like, she vanishes. And what I find funny,
like, Black Lung Disease rules, yeah!
And what I love is every time she vanishes, she leaves her cape. But, like, she just has another one whenever they show her again. So I'm like,
this bitch has a million capes.
Yeah. So she leaves, and Spider-Man's like, oh, gotta go. And he just, like, webs out. And Grunge is like, we gotta go meet him. That's Spider-Man. Like, we gotta go meet him. So he, like, forces his way to, like, the back room. And they're like, dude, we told you, like, he's back here. Like, we gotta get to the back. Our names are on the list. And this dude says, I told you, Mr. Ching. And then the dude, Grunge goes, Chang.
Walla walla bing bong.
And the dude responds, Ching Chang Walla Walla Bing Bong. The point is, you're not on the list. And I was like, holy shit, what the fuck?
God damn.
And then,
by the way, this comic book is made in 1996. You can tell it's made in 1996.
Yeah, because then they're like, all right, Fairchild's like, guys, all right, they're not going to let us on. Let's just go. And as she's walking away, the bouncer dude goes, now you're getting the message, sweet cheeks. And he slaps her on the ass. And he goes, whoa, buns of steel. And she's like, okay. So she grabs this dude by the neck and just lifts him up in the air. And then they don't show a lot, but they show Freefall, like, squinting her eye. What happened?
You know what I find interesting, Gabe? They do these splash pages, and then within the splash page, like, they do, like, a bunch of side panels. They do that all throughout this book.
They do. That's just, like, I don't know why, but they do that all the time. It was like that in the Gen 13 book also. I don't know. I think it's just, like, their thing. Yeah, like the white background splash pages. But yeah, and then and they show Freefall kind of squinting, and she's like, I've never seen someone's foot actually go into their mouth. So it implies, I guess, she contorted this dude in crazy, I don't know, poses. And then Grunge looks over. He goes, oh, it looks like our name's on the list. And they let them in the back.
Oh, it looks like our name's on the list, dude. Oh.
And then Spider-Man kind of just like, yo, like, how am I here? Like, why am I here? And they kind of just like, so it's weird. Like, they cut the scene and Spider-Man's like
he goes, dream assignment, Peter. Go on tour with a band, Peter. Let's change of pace, Peter.
And it's confusing because, like,
he's like scolding himself in his head.
He's like in regular clothes too, and I'm like, is this before the or did he like change out of his clothes and then go into a taxi just to leave a taxi and be Spider-Man again? Like, what? I don't understand when this is taking place.
Gabe, I want you to show the shot of, like, so he's getting out of the taxi, and then he goes back into Spider-Man, where he's, like, in the air. Look at how fucking fat his head is as Spider-Man.
There's a couple pages where his head looks wild, bro.
Like, it looks like he has a boxy, like, head. It's so strange.
There's a couple pages like that where they make it, like, right here. Like, what the fuck is that head, bro?
Yeah,
it looks
it's
odd.
So strange.
But yeah, he's webbing away, and this chick catches up with him again. She just kicks him in the back, knocks him down to the ground. His spider senses still aren't working, and she sets off this like sonic grenade behind him, and it like makes him all dizzy. And when Spider-Man, she vanishes, and these cops are like, freeze, and they just start shooting at him, and he's like, what the fuck? So these cops are shooting at them, and Rainmaker shows up, Sarah Rainmaker, saves him. She like puts all this like weather things, and Spider-Man's like, is that Storm?
I don't want to cut you off, Gabe, but the whole time I'm reading this book, up until the cops showed up, okay, I was like, the art's actually not too bad.
Yeah.
Like, I'm reading it, I was like, the art's pretty functional. And then they show the panel with the cops, and I was like, Jesus Christ, that's disgusting.
There's some pages where this art looks really good, and then some where it's just like, what am I looking at?
Like, the cops look so weird. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, they look very odd. I don't know what it is. They're just like there. I don't know. But yeah, she saves him. Grunge takes some bullets for her. The cops try to shoot her. And then Fairchild takes down the cops, saves the day, and when she tackles the cop, they go through a wall.
You gotta bring up when Sarah shows up, and one of the cops goes, "Was that a freaking hurricane?"
Oh yeah, I think that's yeah. And it literally says, "Was that a freaking hurricane?"
Oh, was that a freaking hurricane?
And this cop too, when he shoots, he says, "It's one of them."
It's one of them.
It's one of them.
Oh,
so
just
I
New
guess
York is over here.
Yes, I guess this is like a weird New York. By the way, Spider-Man's just in this universe. He exists.
It's never explained how he got there, or like.
And they all know him, but he doesn't know them.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah, it's so strange.
So when Fairchild tackles the cop, they fall through the wall, and the wall they're behind is the wall behind the stage. And they're like, yeah, whoa, it's a mega babe. And then she just goes, yeah, black lung disease rules.
Everyone's like, yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah. But it's funny, like, if you don't know this, the name of the band, it's like, wait, what? So they start playing the music with her, and they're like, yeah, Fairchild, distract the people while we get Spider-Man out of here. And then Spider-Man just collapses. He passes out, and they're like, oh, we got to get him out of here. And Freefall says, we can bring him back to our place. And Grunge just goes, bitchin'. This is 1996. That's like equivalent to saying, that's lit.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So we go back, and Burnout's there. And like I said, he is the straight and narrow dude. And he's like, are you guys fucking crazy? You brought this random dude to our apartment where our secret identities are. What is wrong with you? And they're like, oh, come on. They're like, Bobby, it's Spider-Man. Like, come on. He's like, we don't know who he is. And Grunge goes, sure we do. He spins a web and he sighs, catches thieves just like flies. And I was like, the song from the cartoon. It's the Spider-Man song.
Spider-Man.
And then this is where it gets horny again, because he's like, I'm not going to have Spider-Man here. And Sarah Rainmaker's on the couch, and he's like, I refuse to have Spider-Man. And she does this. She goes, she licks her lips.
She just starts
and he's
licking
like,
her lips.
And he's like, oh. And she's like, and he's like, oh, okay, fine. He can stay. He's like, why do I keep falling for this?
You know what?
Lips.
You know what, Bobby? I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you, Bobby.
So then they're like, we hear someone coming down saying, hey, team, how are you? And it's John Lynch coming in. And they're like, oh, fuck. John's here. We need to hide Spider-Man's body. So they're like, oh, hey, John, how you doing today? And they're all just like trying to act casual. And they're all like leaning up on the couch and shit. As you can see here, Burnout's just casually just as people do, just leaning on a couch like that. And he's like, "What's going on, guys?" And they're like, "Nothing. We're just chilling, dude." He's like, "Is you sure?" And they're like, "Yup, we're good. Have fun at your convention about guns." He's like, "Okay." And when they show him, you find out Freefall is levitating Spider-Man's body above John Lynch on the ceiling. So as he's as he's going out, Fairchild's coming in, and shocker, shocker, her clothes are tattered up and ripped right at the boobies. And John Lynch opens the door and he says, "Do I want to know why your clothes are shredded?" And she says, "No, sir." He says, "Didn't think so." And he just leaves. And they're like, "What the fuck happened to you?" And she says that some fans got, quote, overexcited, and that she is just glad that that whole thing is over. And I'm like, what happened to Fairchild at this concert?
That's a little weird.
And then she looks up and she's like, what the fuck is Spider-Man doing on the ceiling? And Freefall goes, hey, he's just hanging around. And I'm like,
you have to do the sound effect. She goes, ack.
Yeah, she goes, ack. What's he doing here? So we go to this next scene, and they spend a lot of pages on this story here. And I'm like, it's this woman laying in bed, and it's this little girl going, "Mommy." And she's like, "Alyssa, shut the fuck up. I'm trying to sleep."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Are you sure?" She's like, "Yeah, just go back to sleep." She goes, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, so I don't have to go to school today?" And the mom's like, "School? Oh, fuck, school. I gotta drive you to school." And the little girl's just like, "Oh, so I have to go?" So she speeds down in this car, and she's like, "Mom, I hate these Pop-Tarts that you gave me." And she's like, "Too bad. Eat the Pop-Tarts, Alyssa." And she brings her to school.
"Mom, I like the cinnamon Pop-Tarts better."
And she's like, "Get out the car and go to school." And she looks over, and she's like, "Oh, son of a bitch, not again." And it's this private eye photographing her, and she's like, "Yo, tell my ex-husband, stop wasting money on this shit. I'm trying to do what I can to take care of our daughter."
She goes, "Hey, Magnum PI."
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you doing here?
And she's like, "Yeah, tell my husband that." He goes, You could tell him yourself in court today when you see him, Mrs. Height." And she's like, "Fuck off, slime bag." She didn't say fuck off, but that's what she meant.
Height, by the way, spelled Hite.
Te, yes. So we go back to the apartment here, and there's a maid carrying papers, whistling. This is my favorite moment of the whole comic book. I'm just gonna point this out right now. So this is actually the maid who is a robot in Gen 13. So as she's just carrying these towels, sorry, I thought they were papers or towels, she goes, "Ah!" And it's Spider-Man going, "Booga booga," like jumping out of a door like an asshole. Yeah. And then he's shocked when she starts to beat his ass because, like, you jumped at her. So, of course, this robot lady throws him off, and he's like, "Am I getting my ass kicked by a maid?" And then
the fucking visual of Spider-Man getting his ass kicked by a maid is so ridiculous, and I love it.
Her yeeting him across the room.
I love it.
She punches a hole in the ground, and finally we get a Spider-Man joke, and he's like, "Oh, one less spot for you to clean."
Spider-Man goes, "It's the maid of steel."
and it's funny because he jumps into the kitchen, and she goes, "Who is this lunatic?" And they just see Grunge and Freefall in the kitchen, and they're just like, "Uh-oh, Spider-Man's awake." And then Bobby burns his little web backpack, and Spider-Man jumps out of the window and dives into the water where Sarah Rainmaker's naked swimming. And she's like, "Oh, I'm not opposed to people joining me on my nude swims, but I much rather get to know them better." And he's like, "Oh, how are you?" Oh, he says, "You don't look like you're carrying any concealed weapons." So that means you got a good look. So there's this truck. We find out that in the backpack that was burning, there was a tracker on him put on him by that chick in the beginning, that supervillain, that had a tracker on him. And they're like, "What the fuck?" And this guy's in the car like, "Oh, we lost the tracker, but we're basically right on top of him, so we can go find him." So I'm like, "All right, why are you upset?" But whatever. So they go back now. We're in the courtroom, and we see this chick, Mrs. Height and Mr. Height. They're just fighting for custody of this daughter. And at the end, she's just like, "Oh, I got a headache." I've seen a lot of headaches with Gen 13 things. She's like, "Oh, I got a headache." And they're like, "Oh, she's faking injuries, see, so she doesn't have to be a part of this trial." And he's like, "All right, court adjourned." I was like, "Yo, this is a weird SVU episode." And they're like, "Yeah, nice." The husband's like, "Yeah, nice little stunt, bitch." Like, and she's get little people talking in her ear, and you realize, oh, Heather Height is this evil woman who is Glider, who is the woman that jumped Spider-Man in the beginning of the book. Heather is Glider. I bet you couldn't tell from the exact same hair that these two have. It is identical, but who would have thunk it? Big surprise. And they're like, God damn, this dude, the lawyer's like, God damn it, Glider, what is wrong with you? And they talk like she's like another person. Like it's like another personality. And they're like,
that's kind of what the gimmick is supposed to be, is that Glider is like her split personality.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, Heather wouldn't want this, Glider. If she knew you, she wouldn't want you to do this. To which Glider says, oh yeah, styles change. And then she teleports again and then loses another cape. Where did this cape come from? I don't know. She literally pulled it out of fucking nowhere and vanished. So that happens. And then we go to the classroom and it's her daughter Alyssa, and then they just straight up just put a picture of a skyline.
I was gonna bring that up. This is the most jarring panel of the whole book.
Because look aside, the whole book looks like a cartoon like this, and then it's just a picture of a Marriott hotel.
Like a real picture.
Yeah.
In a comic book. It's just so weird.
And it's funny, it shows the Marriott hotel, but then it cuts back to Gen 13's room, like their apartment house, and I'm like, are they in this hotel? Is that what they're trying to say? Because usually if you show a building, that means what we're supposed to look at. So are they in this random hotel that has water?
Just an advertisement they fucked up.
I like this panel a lot, by the way, of Spider-Man sticking against the fridge and just like drinking a cup of coffee.
Yeah, with this mask up.
I find that very amusing.
And then it's funny because Grunge is like, oh man, I looked up to you since I was a kid. And Spider-Man's like, a kid? Like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, man, like I've been tracking your career the whole time. Like, we all look up to you. And he's like, listen, I've never been old before, because then Freefall proceeds to call them the grand old man of superheroes. Or sorry, of super guys. And he's like, yeah, he's like, I've never been called old before. And then he just leaves. Like, he's kind of insulted. So Spider-Man just like angrily walks away, and he walks away and then crawls on the wall. Why?
It's so impractical.
And Rainmaker's like, listen, they didn't mean to offend you. And he's like, nah, it's okay. I just haven't been feeling well. I'm really out of it. And then they open the door, and
Spider-Man's straight up like, I'm not used to you Gen Xers.
Yeah. I can say that because we own the Gen X book. But yeah, and then Glider's there, and then we get a regular drawing of a building. So why did we get it? Did they like run out of time and have to like get a picture for the other page?
And that's a perfectly functional drawing of a building.
Yeah.
Like, why couldn't they have included that earlier? That's so strange.
So there's this guy on the phone, and he's like talking about Gen 13.
There's a lot of dialogue here.
A lot of dialogue here, and I'm just like, okay. And he's like, he's pissed about Glider.
Could have been skipped. This panel could have been skipped.
It's pointless, because then it's there, and then it means nothing. And then we cut right to Fairchild looking at the computer, and she's like, oh my god, Glider, I know who she is now. And right as she says that, it's the fucking meme where the SWAT team breaks into the house when she's on her computer. Yeah, she was probably looking at something she wasn't supposed to, so they broke in. And then they just start shooting up the house, and Grunge, who earlier was bulletproof and perfectly okay with it, is running and screaming now like, holy shit, they're burning the fridge.
And he goes, we have to get out of here before we're completely vapor mist.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
What?
And then Rainmaker goes, I'll try something subtle. And then she just blasts them through a window.
One of them goes, it's the weather witches.
And then he goes through a window. By the way, another day, they're not in their costumes still. I would love to see this image in the book of them in their costumes, but we don't get it.
Yeah.
Because now they're all flying out of the window. I guess it's super windy in this hotel. And they go flying out, and Glider's flying towards Grunge. And he's like, yeah, your name's Glider. He goes, glide this, babe. And he goes to punch her, and she calls him a twerp and vanishes. She's gone again. She teleports. We go outside, and Burnout is just straight up setting people on fire. He's trying to just kill these people. And then they like put this weird like film around him so that he could fall to the ground. And then we see Free Fall kind of like make them all bubbly and like so they can stop shooting Burnout and stop hurting them. So she kind of like traps them in this little ball. And right as she does that, Glider just decks her in the side of the dome. And then Spider-Man's like, hey, forgot about me, and then kicks her in the face. He's like, focus on me. The fight's with me, not them. And then as Glider's
she calls him a wall-crawling idiot.
Yeah. So then she swipes at him, and Fairchild grabs her from the arms. And she then chucks Fairchild into Spider-Man. And Spider-Man gets mad at Fairchild. He says, nice try, Fairchild, but try to avoid hurting someone. Like me, for instance. Like, stop being a dick, bro. Why are you so mean? So then Fairchild gets a gun put to her head. Or sorry, not Fairchild. Free Fall gets a gun put to her head. And Grunge comes to her rescue. Chucks the dude off. Super happy moment. Saves her life. Fairchild
Grunge, by the way, made of cement. He absorbs cement now.
Yes, he is made of cement now. Fairchild then crushes Burnout out of his little like film, and he does this weird like peekaboo face, like "Ah, I'm back." I don't know why he's doing that face.
What?
I don't understand why. So, yeah, he's back. Sarah Rainmaker's shooting lightning bolts. By the way, there's a lot happening. There's only like 30 or 40 something pages in this book. It's not very long. There's a lot of shit happening.
Actually, there's 49.
49,
pages, so
okay.
Almost 50. Yeah.
And there's a lot happening in this. This could have been like a 5-issue series, but they crammed it into one book. She then throws a bomb at everyone, and Spider-Man just pushes her in the face. She goes, oof. She falls, and he punches her again, and then he kicks her in the crotch for good measure to make sure she's down. And at this point, they're near a school. And these kids are going, hey, look, that's so cool. And it's people shooting and setting on fire and explosions.
Yeah, I don't think I would be having that reaction if I was the kid. I think I'd be running away.
And they're in the school zone.
The kids all go, cool.
It's cool. They're like, cool. And the next panel, they're like, ah, running and screaming when an explosion goes off. And now they're like in their playground. And by this point,
you skipped over Glider and Grunge.
Yeah, I was gonna say Grunge at this point gets his arm chopped off by Glider, and he starts screaming, and he's able to grab the arm and reattach it. And Spider-Man's like, oh, I wish I could do that. And then right as he attaches the arm and Glider's about to kill both of them, she has her little flamey knife. You hear a guy off camera go, okay, freeze. Dog. This soldier that's working for Glider has his guns pointed at this group of children. And he's like, stop the fighting right now. And if any of you try to move, I'm going to shoot these kids. And then Glider's like, fuck, Alyssa. And that's the kid he has the gun pointed at is her daughter.
Is Glider's kid, yeah.
Is Glider's kid. And she's like, Alyssa. And then everyone's like, fuck. And then they're like, Spider-Man. Or before that, Glider's like, listen, we don't threaten kids, put the gun down. And he's like, fuck you, Glider. Like, these are our men, not yours. They do what I say, not what you say. And then she goes, turn your gun away from these kids. And he fucking pistol whips her daughter. And then grabs her by the collar.
Straight up.
He pistol whips her, grabs the kid from the collar. And as he does that, Glider, like, she makes, like, it says she makes a sound like she's speaking a name or hissing. And then she vanishes. She vanishes again. And then when they say they all have the guns pointed at the heroes, this guy says, ready, aim. He's ready to mow down these heroes. Grunge is like, what do we do, Spidey? And Spider-Man says, we duck and pray. And he goes, great plan. I can see how you got to be a living legend.
A living legend.
To which Glider then randomly reappears in front of the soldiers with her own gun, mows them all down, which is kind of dangerous because the kids are right next to them.
She goes full on fucking Punisher, just taking every soldier out.
Shoots all the soldiers. There is an image of the kids when Gen 13's consoling them, and there's bullets behind their head, which means they were definitely shot in that direction when she was shooting at the soldiers.
Yeah.
So Fairchild goes over to Alyssa's child who screams, I want my daddy. And it says right there, and
Glider Shop. Alyssa's the name of the kid.
Oh, sorry, Alyssa. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
Alyssa, Glider's daughter, Alyssa, says, "I want my daddy." And they look at Glider, and Spider-Man's speech bubble says, and Glider looks like someone stabbed her into the heart. Because remember, she's fighting for custody of her daughter, and the first person she calls out first her dad. So the dude that is still there standing with his gun then goes over and shoots Glider. Glider gets shot. She starts collapsing, and they're like, do we help her? And Spider-Man's like, of course, we're heroes. We help people. And as he goes to grab her, her cape is left, and Glider's gone. She's vanished again. To which now it's another day. We're in Gen 13's headquarters, and John Lynch is back, and he's like, hey, anything fun happen, guys? And they're like, nothing at all. It was peaceful. And he says, did you read today's headline? And it's them with Spider-Man fighting all of these soldiers. And it says photo.
Yeah, it's a big splash page of Spider-Man fighting Glider.
And you see some of Gen 13 behind him. And you see Grunge go, photo by Peter Parker? Man, wait till I get my hands on that guy. And then we find out Spider-Man submitted the pictures to Jameson. He was very happy about it. And we go to the hospital on our final page. Glider, a.k.a. Heather, is in the hospital bed. The husband's there saying that after what happened at Alyssa's school, that they're going to be leaving the country for a bit, him and Alyssa. And they say, that's okay. And he says, hey, let me know if anything changes with Heather. And when they point to Heather, she's crying in her bed because she is in a coma. And they don't know when she's waking up from it. But it's kind of hints that she's there. She's coherent. And she did that. She sacrificed herself so that the daughter can go with the father. So overall, it had a good ending, like a solid ending. There was some...
accurate. Like, some people go into a coma and they can still hear things.
Yep.
They can still be aware of their surroundings, but they can't do anything. They can't move, can't talk.
And for this book, there was some goofy moments in it. I would like to see them more in the costumes, but this wasn't bad of a story. I mean, it was a very touching story. I think they not only introduced Glider, they made you care for her, and then made the ending kind of wrap it all up, and it was like, okay, that's a good ending to the story. I think for the page number they did really good for that.
I was really surprised. I thought it was going to be bad, to be honest with you. I thought it was going to be a bad crossover.
Me too.
And then I was like, oh, well, it's Peter David writing it. Peter David's a good writer. Maybe he can make something out of it. And I think he did the best that he could with
I think
this.
so too. Well,
and I like Glider.
Yeah, I do too. I think they made her really likable.
I like the design. I think it's cool.
She was a realistic character. She had real world problems.
I like the almost like the Mr. Freeze element to her, where Mr. Freeze, he's always fighting for his wife, but in a sense, she's like fighting for her daughter.
I agree.
He kind of makes her like she's a villain, but he kind of makes her sympathetic.
Well, that was Spider-Man and Gen 13's crossover. And I did say that the format for the one-shots would be changing a little bit going forward. I think it would have been... I love doing these reviews with you, Ajax, looking at these books and talking about them.
I greatly enjoy it.
And it gives me a reason to read some books, too. But I want to focus on something. So, I want to look through a series with you. It's only 3 issues, so for the next 3 one-shots, we'll cover these. It'll be, we get through a whole story. They're very thin. They're about the same size as this Gen 13 and Spider-Man books. This was a good indicator of these. This is interesting, though. This is a book that came out January of 2023. It's pretty new. I talked about it when we started doing the podcast, how much I liked it when it was going on. And I would love to go through it again.
I have an idea.
I've been itchy to read it again because it's definitely a book you want to read multiple times. And I'd love to go through it and shine some light on this because it's not talked about enough. And this series is called Saga of a Doomed Universe. It is a book that takes place during the art in this is, you would like this, it's pretty interesting. It is Kirby era style art in this.
Okay.
But you see all these black boxes that are coding this when you look through this, and it's covering the speech bubbles because this book is a very meta book where the premise of this, it was supposed to be sold back in the day, and it was buried. They were buried in landfills in New Mexico, and we don't know why. And they are finally made, and these little black boxes is the creator telling us why these books were buried. And throughout the story, it's talking about how the comic company that was printing these, how all this stuff was happening with them, what happened with the story, and it's for a reason. And it's a very much like, it's a book I've never read before. Like, it's nothing like you've ever read before. It's a conspiracy theory book mixed with a Kirby era-esque story. It's like 2 stories in one. It's the comic book and then the story of the writer over it, which is very different. And in the end, it ends in a way that's like, what? Like, what is... It gets to the point in issue 3 where you're like, what the hell is going on? But it's in a good way, because it just takes all these turns. And also, there were some cool homage covers like this that were really cool. And it's funny, I actually have the Dark Knight Returns book 4 that's about the same size as this, of this cover. I have it on my shelf. So, I highly recommend people that haven't read Saga of a Doomed Universe, pick it up. We're going to be talking about this. We'll be talking about part 1, or issue 1, next month, Ajax. And then 2 months after that, we'll be covering the last 2, and then we'll find a new story to talk about. How does that sound?
Now I'm looking forward to it. Now with my tablet, Gabe, it's all set up. I no longer have an excuse to not be reading comic books. So if you want me to read something specifically for the pod, I will.
Hell yes. And when this comes out, this episode will be out some point. If you're listening to this, it is the weekend. But on stream on February 20th of 2024, we will be looking through the Dark Horse Topps Comics Greatest World trading cards, completely
Gabe,
unopened.
I cannot tell you
super excited.
how excited I am for this. I'm so excited. I didn't know these were a thing up until you bought them.
Me neither. I didn't know they were a thing until they popped up on my Mercari, and then I scooped it up.
I didn't know they were a thing, and I don't know Dark Horse as a quote-unquote superhero publisher.
Yes.
I know that they have superhero characters, but I find this really interesting. So, like, I'm looking forward to seeing the art on this and being introduced to new characters, because I don't know really, like, Dark Horse superheroes like that. So this is going to be new to me.
I do have some Dark Horse books. It's mostly one, and it's a couple issues of Will to Power, which is this guy here. Right. He's probably one of my favorites, but X is pretty cool. But yeah, we'll talk about this a little bit more in depth on stream when we'll be going through these. Justine will be in the studio again. She'll be sorting out the cards in my binder while we go through it.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
So it's going to be a fun time. We look forward to that. And we'll see you guys on the next issue where we talk about female superheroes, the bad girl era. We will be talking about that on issue number 13 of the monthly Dive Into the Long Box in March. Ajax, thank you for being here. Sinai was here earlier, had to dip out, but that is okay. We appreciate him for being on these past 2 episodes. We'll see you guys next month.